Hi, I'm Norman Perlo, a furniture designer and maker at Perlo Design and a woodworking educator, author at WoodSkills. Well, today I'd like to talk about veneer presses, the traditional mechanical veneer press as opposed to a vacuum veneer press, a more modern approach to pressing veneers. Vacuum veneer pressing can get very expensive, and for the home hobbyist, a mechanical veneer press is usually sufficient for the small work they do or for the infrequent pressing of veneers they do. I'm going to demonstrate these two forms of mechanical veneer press that I've been using for, well, this particular one at the left or at my right, I've been using for a large number of years, and it's larger, and I've adapted it to mostly door panels for cabinets on stand, which is the type of furniture I create very often. It's also suitable or in size for large jewelry boxes, tops of large jewelry boxes, and I'll give an example of that. But before I give the example, I'll talk about how it works. And it can be fairly obvious how it works. It's just a matter of, these are crossbearers or crossbars. The idea behind these mechanical veneer presses, especially this one, it actually scales in size. So this would probably be one of the smallest versions. Again, it's for my cabinet door size, and it's sized for that. And these are platens, this white melamine. Now the white melamine is used so the glue doesn't adhere to it when you're pressing veneers onto a substrate. And the smaller one, so you can see the different size. I've got a larger platen or caul and a couple of smaller ones. So you can actually do multiple pressings at a time. I could do two or three pressings at a time with this model of this size, and I'll indicate what size it is. So the largest size of this particular model of mechanical veneer press is about 15 inches and about 18 inches in depth, or 17 or 18 inches in depth in length. So 15 by 18 or 17. So you can actually veneer flat panels of that size without a problem. And I've used this extensively in the past, and it works really well. It's a little more time consuming to set up, and actually you do have to create it in the beginning. But I've since progressed to vacuum veneers for most of my work, and that's because I do more I vacuum veneer. I do veneered work considerably more often now, and then it's more practical for me to upgrade to a vacuum veneer setup. Now this one is, again, it's you can scale it in size, and I'll just break it down. I'll just move this aside. So if I remove so it's just basically consists of maple crossbearers and the softwood frame. And this is the larger platen. This would actually be indicative of the size. It's really designed to be scaled up so you can actually add to it or make it wider, but I think this is an ideal width for most of the work home woodworkers or hobbyists do. So these are the crossbearers. Now the interesting thing about these crossbearers are they're actually convex. So they're actually, there's a convex curve in it, and the reason for that is to distribute the clamping pressure evenly. So that's important to create that convex curve. It's just a matter of planing the ends up to here, for example, and then this is the center point. So that's important, because if you don't do that when you're actually tightening down the rods, the pressure might be distributed toward the ends and not so much towards the middle. So that would balance the pressure out. So so it can be taken apart and scaled up, or these can be used. These same crossbearers can be used in a longer version of this if necessary. So it's just a matter of creating the base, a softwood base, and creating these individual ones with threaded rod. So I've used, for the most part, 5/16 threaded rod, and all the hardware, the washers, the nuts, the wing nuts that go along with that, and the acorn nuts on the opposite side. And I'm very satisfied with this, although again I moved on to vacuum veneering. This is something home hobbyists can easily put together. I'll just slide everything back in here. That's how easy it is. So with that platen or caul, and then you just keep adding them. So your workpiece, your substrate with the two veneers, the face veneer and the back veneer, would actually be between these two melamine coated panels. And if you have a third one, you would it would be between. And then it's just a matter of torquing everything down. You don't need as much pressure as most people think because of that convex curve I just referred to. So that pressure is distributed evenly. So that seems to work fine. So that's one example of a mechanical veneer press that most woodworkers can easily put together for themselves at relatively low cost. And it works fine for for a home hobbyist or a home woodworker application. Here are some examples of pressings I've done. This is one panel. This is a standard panel I would use. So this is the back veneer and this is the face veneer. This is a bird's eye maple. That's one example. Again, it's designed really for flat work, although you could introduce curved cross members, introduce a curve into them, a very subtle curve, and create some curved panels also if necessary. It's just a matter of introducing a curve, so having a different set of crossbears with a curve, a male and female curve, and you could introduce curved work through curved sawn or bendable plywood. Use that as a substrate instead of MDF or Baltic birch. This is 1/4 inch MDF in this case. A separator. This is again MDF with tiger maple and a backer veneer. It's important to have veneer on both sides. And this is another version of tiger maple. It's a little more opaque with a backer veneer, again on MDF. So it's very easy to create panels this size, and this is sufficient for a lot of furniture, small furniture, and the small, large jewelry boxes or that type of box. So I'll move this over a little and I'll show you a more recent version of a veneer press I've created that's actually even easier or more simpler to create, and it's this one. It's a smaller version, although again this can be scaled up, and it consists of some wood frame, a horizontal frame, a vertical frame, and a veneer press screw that's very, very affordable and widely available. So I purchased this through Lee Valley. It's a $25 veneer press screw. So I put this frame together using a bridle joint and reinforced with dowels, with through dowels. Again, it's scaled to a maximum size of about 10 by 10. And the interesting thing about this setup is, now it's designed to actually wobble like that because the outside part of the frame. The interesting part of this veneer press is that everything stacks vertically as opposed to horizontally in the other version I've shown you. So it's far easier to create. There's minimal hardware involved. And just to give you an idea, it actually disassembles very easily. So this is this disassembles. This is the base, and I've covered it in packing tape to keep the glue from adhering to the surface. And it's 3/4 inch Baltic birch with some softwood components to lock it in and keep it oriented correctly. And the frame is the more complex part to create. Although there are different versions of this. You can create a version with threaded rod as opposed to a wood. So just have the cross member, the top and bottom cross member, and some threaded rod going between. That's another version. But this attaches, this is one of the platens, and this attaches through a magnet, through a strong magnet, a rare earth magnet. Again, it's the melamine. I use my melamine extensively when I do veneer work to keep the glue from adhering to the surfaces. So if I'm putting it together, this is basically essentially the frame. So it's very symmetrical, and I put my little maker's mark in. The veneer screw fits right in through a pre-sized hole for the 1/2 inch threaded rod. So the more consuming part is to create the frame. Again, you could create it using 2 cross members and some threaded rod, but in this case I decided to make it out of wood. That's very inexpensive to create. This is probably $40 worth of components here, including the wood. Then you've got a nice little veneer press. So this fits in and it locks in, so like like so. Actually, before I put this in, I'll fit this back in. So again, this is fitted so it locks in, so there's no, that doesn't move around before you, once you've got the substrate with your veneers in, there's less chance of any movement, and it's critical and very little movements when you're veneering because there's so much going on. So this fits, you know, over the top, and it's exactly the same size, so the platens are the same size. That locks in, and then it's just a matter of you have all this depth to work with. You could create multiple. I've done up to 4 panels, veneered panels in this. I think you could go to 5, depending on the thickness of your substrate. So if it's a 1/4 inch substrate, you probably get away with 5, but 4 is a good maximum, and that's considerable. So I just veneered this panel just in the last hour or so, in the last 2 hours, and I've let it cure for about an hour. So this has a face veneer and a backer veneer on a 3/16 or 1/4 inch panel, and that's just to give you an idea. So if you're creating small boxes or smaller, very small furniture, primarily small boxes, this is ideal. It's very inexpensive and far less simpler to make than this other one with much less hardware. So again, if you're veneering multiple panels at a time, you would introduce these cauls or platens, so you can have up to 3 or 4, and just give you an idea, I'll fit this in. So this would fit in at the bottom, and this one would fit in just above it. And you can have another one just above that, and then press them all together. Again, you don't need to really torque this too much because it distributes the weight evenly. So it's proven itself for that size. I would go maybe, hang on. Yeah, this is what I mean by having this bottom part platen fixed and this part fixed. So then you only concern yourself with the middle platens, or if you have multiple platens, or just a single platen. So most of my melamine platens or cauls are 3/4 inch, and they're melamine. Again, this is primarily designed for flat work. I don't think it's suitable for any curved work, although you can introduce curved platens, or a subtle curve possibly. So once everything's lined up, it's just a matter of torquing it down. Again, you don't need too much pressure because it distributes it evenly, and you just let it sit for maybe an hour and a half, between an hour and a half, and it cures, and then you can remove it and it continues to cure. I would not really do any work on the panel for maybe 2 to 3 hours. So this serves me well, so I'm really kind of impressed with this one. Again, the design of this is scalable in the sense that you can either go in this direction and introduce another veneer screw, make it longer this way, or actually create multiples of these frames and lengthen and create longer platens in this direction. In this case, it's I think it's 10 by 10, approximately 10 by 10. So I made it square so this part is symmetrical, and it's 10 by 10. So you could easily go 20 by 20 if necessary, similar to this, or maybe 15 with 2 screws. 16 with 2 screws on this dimension, 2 more screws in this dimension, so for a total of 4 screws. Now the veneer screws would in that case be about $100, and with the woods. But you have a very versatile veneer setup that works really well, so it's well worth it. And it's far more inexpensive than a vacuum veneer setup that could cost $2,000 maybe in today's dollars. So I'm going to be offering plans for this at woodskills.com shortly. So just a matter of reverse engineering it and building another one of these. Again, this is a completed. These are the different platens, different plat sizes. This is a veneer that's completed, it's glued. Now this is what it looks like before I introduced it between the cauls or platens. So I've applied glue, or maybe not in this case, and then applied some tape to keep the veneers, the face and the backer veneer, from shifting on the substrate, and then insert it. And once it's removed, or immediately remove the blue tape so it doesn't continue to adhere to the surface, because veneer is, by nature, it's very, very thin. That's that. And there's one more thing I'd like to talk about is when you're working with veneers, and you're assembling two veneers together, this is a clamping or jointing jig for veneers. And this is, again, it's very simple. It's almost similar to making these cross bears. A couple of threaded rods with 5/16 threaded rods with some bolts and, in this case they were bolts, they're not threaded rod, and wing nuts and washers, and two pieces of maple. And then you could joint, I'll pick any plane. Usually you can use a block plane, and you can just simply joint the edges of the veneers. So they're actually clamped in together, and by jointing them together, as I just demonstrated, you create a uniform straight edge, and then you can just flip them over and glue them together. And that's, we're getting into veneering now, and that's a whole subject in itself, but this is just, I thought I'd demonstrate this. Just as very easy to create if you're creating something like this or this at the same time. And this increases the versatility of your veneering to where you could create book match surfaces by jointing and then flipping, opening it up like the wings of a butterfly, and gluing it all together and creating that beautiful book matched pattern, which I tend to use in a lot of my furniture, my cabinet doors. And so it's just a matter, you can actually get away with just a block plane for this type of thing. So again, these are both mechanical veneer presses, a more traditional type, not vacuum. I thought I'd demonstrate this today to make you aware of the options you have when you're beginning, when you're starting with veneering. You don't necessarily need to get a vacuum veneer press, because by nature the vacuum veneer press, and I have a lot of video on my woodskills.com site and my courses on vacuum veneering, and it's very it takes up a lot of space. I have a complete table as large as this workbench and twice as wide, just for the lower platen with the channels, with the grooves to evacuate all the air, and the vacuum bag setup and everything. So really not applicable or suitable for perhaps a home hobbyist or woodworker. This is more practical because you can actually use it and put it away somewhere, put it under a workbench, or especially this one. It's got a very compact form factor, disassembles, and I'm very impressed with this one. Again, I'm going to be introducing plans for this one shortly at my woodskills.com site. So I hope you'll learn something about veneering through all this, and it's opened your eyes to the options you have in introducing veneered work to your furniture making and woodworking. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced, and I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.